What's up, my friends? Jason Woodland back again with Always the Journey TV. Thank you so much for joining us. We're having a ball out here talking to all kinds of amazing people out here in the community and introducing you to all these wonderful talents. So the whole objective with this TV show is to spotlight people out there in the community and learn so we can learn more about their businesses, their jobs, their artwork, their side hustles, their event space, and everything in between. So today's small business shout out actually is two shout outs. We've got Wood Ash Rye down in St. George, Utah, and also Trio Restaurant in Salt Lake City. That's also one of my personal favorites. Today, I'm ultra excited to bring to you a friend of mine who is an unbelievable artist. It was definitely a pleasure of mine. The way I grew up, I was able to grow up in everything from the punk rock and the hardcore scenes, the hip hop and the graffiti scenes, the skateboard scenes, the BMX scenes, all these wonderful places. And what we found there was just an astronomical amount of sort of do-it-yourself talent and talent and creativeness from here to high heaven. I mean, I'm talking just all kinds of amazing people that came out of those different communities. And today I'm really excited to introduce you to my friend Vic Back, hands down one of my favorite artists of all times. He wants to give you your favorite tattoo. An all-around artist with an extensive background in multiple mediums, Vic has become highly regarded nationally and award-winning globally. He is also a part of a sponsored teams, pro teams like Fusion, that's Fusion Inc., Second Skin, and Bishop Rotary. Known for taking any idea you have to new heights, he is rare among the tattoo community in that he pushes himself daily to be a better artist and also to test the boundaries of each medium he works in, whether it be skin, canvas, or carpentry, all of which he's absolutely amazing and talented with. Born in Bezons, France, and raised in Utah, Vic has become the traveling musician's tattoo artist of choice, being invited on tour after tour, trekking across the globe and back. Whether he is tattooing backstage at a show, at a tattoo convention, or at his studios, Vic continues to create piece after piece that astounds and ignites the imagination of the tattoo community and is an example of where the future of this art form is heading. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to introduce to you my friend Vic Back. What's up, my man?
How's it going, man?
Dude, I'm unbelievable. It's a beautiful day.
Good. Yeah, nice.
And you said you've got 71 degrees down there in St. George.
Yeah, we're 71 down here. It's nice. We just had lunch on a patio, and it was it's nice. Really nice day out there.
I love it. So I'm really excited to talk to you a lot about the history of your business, what got you involved in that. But the first question I like to ask is what inspired you to get involved in this art form all to begin with?
I honestly, I grew up doing art, drawing, took private art classes, that kind of thing through my childhood, outside of even just high school art classes and all that. But I never intended on being a tattooer. I played drums growing up and planned on being a famous drummer. And my drums were stolen out of my band's practice space in it was a week before my 19th birthday. So sometime in like 98. And then I was just trying to save so I could get another drum set and keep going with that. But my sister had a friend visiting Salt Lake. He was from Alabama or somewhere like that, and he had some tattoo gear. He ended up needing some money when he was here to get home, and my sister had mentioned to him that I drew and did art. So he'd asked me if I wanted to purchase the equipment, and I told him no initially. And then a day or so later, a good friend of mine wanted to get tattooed, and I just mentioned this guy with the equipment. So we split the cost on it, and then I started it probably the way you shouldn't, but just started kind of tattooing my friends and never really intended on doing anything with it. And ultimately ended up getting an apprenticeship probably about a year later, and just kind of went from there. Started at another shop in town in 2001, so about a year or so out of my apprenticeship. And then I guess it's been like 23 years or something now at this point. So yeah, wow. Kind of fell into it, I guess, but I'm happy it worked out that way. I love it. So it's a great.
I'm happy it worked out that way too, because your art that you bring to the world is absolutely amazing.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I don't personally have any tattoos, but the amount of time I've spent in tattoo shops growing up, taking friends, I can almost guarantee out of anybody with no tattoos, I've spent more time in tattoo shops.
I'm surprised to hear that you don't have any. I just assumed that you did, but yeah.
I know, huh? I mean, and it's hands down one of my favorite art forms ever. I mean, it's absolutely amazing because there's no going back. It's not like, growing up in the graffiti world where if you'd messed up, you could buff it easily and turn it into something else. Yeah. So you really have to have a very high level of focus and talent for that I highly appreciate.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us more specifically about your business. So you and your wife are the founders of 27 Tattoo. Tell us, first of all, where are all three of your locations?
So we have one we call our trolley location, Trolley Square. It's on 535 South, 700 East. We have a Sugar House location at 1790 South, 1100 East. And that one is co-owned by John Lang, who's a really good friend of ours. And then we are opening one in St. George pretty soon. We're just about wrapped up with I guess just getting it set up, getting it ready to go on inspections and all that. And that's at 1234 West Sunset in St. George. So
that's an amazing address.
For me to remember, yeah.
1234 Sunset. How'd you pull that one off? I love it.
I wouldn't rent anything that was out of numerical sequence down here because with the other two, I forget those ones all the time. So we just got lucky.
That is awesome. And I've been seeing the construction coming along for 27 down in St. George. I mean, all of your spaces are amazing, but this looks like it's really going to be something special as well.
Yeah, we wanted because we're down here, we wanted to kind of stick with a kind of a high desert modern kind of a feel, kind of work with the building aesthetic. The building has some really cool architectural features. It was designed to resemble slot canyons and things like that. So it really has this kind of organic Southern Utah feel. Our shops up north, we kind of went with kind of a modern Eastern kind of a vibe to them. They used to be a bit more Japanese. We did a remodel and we incorporated a lot of woodwork and things like that. And they follow a bit more, I guess, modern Thai kind of a feel. And we kept the two studios pretty consistent up there. When we came down here, though, we felt that aesthetic wouldn't work in that building. The ceilings were painted a rust color and introduced walnut into that and the different wood types. So we just decided we did the same wall colors as we did up in Salt Lake, but we just wanted to play more with kind of the desert feel. So we'll have succulents in there and we'll have agave and that kind of thing and just make it very kind of, I guess, match the environment down here. That is awesome. And when do you plan on having that open? I'm hoping by March 1st. That's the goal. It was supposed to be February 1st, but that was yesterday. And we're not open. So.
Well, that's how it goes with retail, isn't it? It always takes 3 times longer than what you had planned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so let's talk about your art. So your business, your art specifically. What kind of stuff do you like to really spend time working on? As far as tattooing? Yep.
I primarily do kind of a neo-traditional Japanese style. I introduced some Art Nouveau into that. That's kind of what I'm known for and what I primarily focus on. But I do some painting recreations and realism as well. I guess more hyper-realism than anything. And I mean, basically those are kind of the two styles I focus on primarily. And that's kind of, those are what I prefer to do especially. So
nice. Yeah. So as we're talking, I'm going to bring up your Instagram page. So we can take a look at some of your pieces that you've worked on.
Okay.
Let me find this here. Okay. So I mean, here's some of your artwork.
Yeah, little Japanese koi there.
I mean, it is absolutely amazing work. Yeah. Tell me, do you like to work mainly on larger pieces only, or do you do anything small also?
If I work small scale, I prefer it to be hyperrealism, whether that's animal portraits or anything like that in color. But with the Japanese style, I usually just do large scale. I don't know to me, that stuff doesn't work super well on a small scale. The smallest I like to work in that style is at least a half sleeve. but I feel like it obviously works better as large scale work. But I don't get asked too often to do anything less than a sleeve, and that's just kind of, I guess, I don't know, just gone that way. So
yeah, that makes sense. How far is do you typically schedule out for artwork?
Salt Lake, I'm usually about 10 to 12 months out. In St. George, because we're new down here, obviously at first it wasn't too long. I think we're a couple months out at this point down here. So yeah, about 2 months if people are willing to make the trip, and then about 10 to 12 months for Salt Lake appointments.
Okay. And so you are going back and forth from Salt Lake to St. George then?
Yeah, every other week for about 5 or 6 days, I go back up to Salt Lake and just kind of rotate back and forth. So.
Okay. So when is the plan to get 27 helicopter?
When I learn to fly one, then I'll.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about geographic locations. So, I mean, you've done work all over the place. So, tell us a little bit more about this. You're touring for some of the bands. What does that look like?
So I've, as of when would that have been? August of 2019. I tattooed in Alaska, which was my 50th state. So I've worked in all 50 states. I've tattooed in Canada. I've tattooed in France, tattooed in Puerto Rico. Was able to knock out those 50 states primarily because of tattooing on the road. I went to high school with the guys from the Used, and at some point into our early 20s, when they started touring heavily, I didn't have a lot of time to work on them anymore. So I was invited out onto the road to tattoo with them, and it actually ended up working out really well. It was really cool. So then within that world, it's a pretty small world, but within that world, I was getting hired out by different bands. So I went out with The Used, My Chemical Romance, Killswitch Engage. I've been out with Slayer, Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie, Korn, Disturbed, Avenged Sevenfold, Atreyu, Under Oath, just a ton of bands back then. And it just kind of, snowballed. And I spent a lot of my time in my 20s just on the road with those bands, just tattooing backstage. Mm-hmm. And then the last tour we were on, we took an RV and then actually just worked out of the RV, my wife and I. And that was, who was that? That was Rob Zombie, Disturbed, Killswitch Engage, and Avenged Sevenfold. I think that was one of the last ones. And then not too long after that tour, found out we were having a kid. So we kind of hung up the tour life, but traded it for a kid. But it was a lot of fun. I had some of the best times ever through my 20s doing that. It was really cool. But that also kind of gave me the option to tattoo in all these major cities and travel a bunch. So
yeah, that sounds amazing. So tell me, what is it like to be backstage while there's all this activity going on while you're tattooing? What is that experience like?
It's pretty amazing. It was really just it's unlike anything else. It's a strange life, and when you've been in it, it's kind of hard to describe. But when you've been in it, it's a whole new world. It's incredible. A lot of good people, just incredibly kind people. You'd be really surprised. You'd be really surprised at how mellow and chill and just cool that life is. It's not what I'd imagine it was in the 80s. It's pretty mellow, and everybody it's like being with your family on the road every day, and you wake up in a new place, you go explore, you go get breakfast at this local place and go do that and whatever. And I still ran schedules. So people would book with me, even though we're on the road together. It's like, well, I'll tattoo you Thursday in Baltimore at 11 o'clock kind of a thing. And so I still kind of had to try and be disciplined and run a schedule like that. And then some days it just wouldn't work out because this person had to do an interview or this person had to fly home for something or whatever. But it just it was a really nice way to detach from just the chaos of having the schedule back home. Mm-hmm. And just really cool. And on any given tour, beyond the band, we had managers out there and merch people and technicians and sponsors for, Xbox or Red Bull or whatever. So there were a lot of people on. I would say that even a really small tour, I went out once with The Used, Head Automatica, The Bled, and the Bronx, and it was a pretty small tour. But even on that tour, there had to have been at least 120 people. So for one person to tattoo every day, and almost everybody out there is getting worked on. So you stay super busy but
Wow.
it was really, really fun. I had a good time with it.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So would they have a piece of, a picture or something that they wanted tattooed, or would they just say, hey, I'm a blank canvas? Well, I'm sure most of them weren't blank canvases per se, but maybe they had a spot open and then just let you go. What did that look like?
It was kind of honestly a lot like it is here. And I toured consistently enough that I was doing large scale work out there too. And, people just book, and then they get their per diems. And that was a lot of times the tattoo money. So they just get paid out weekly on their per diem money and then blow it on tattoos. And then I was there to take care of tattoos too, and make sure that some of the more reckless guys weren't letting their things get infected and making bad decisions with it. They had some road cases made for me, like the guitar techs would have. So one of them was kind of an office case, I guess. So I had a light table drawer. I had a stencil machine. I had a color copier. I had a black and white copier. It had a speaker system in it. And then it kind of folded out and transformed where there's a big desktop on it. So I used that for designing and music and all that. And then I had another one that was made with a plexiglass top. So it was a complete wipeable surface and had drawers in it. So that was my equipment, and I'd work off of that one. And then I had another one that was a sink. So it had a freshwater and gray water tank and a water heater in it. And we just literally plug it in, and then I could use it to wash hands and things like that. So it was pretty cool. That's what I toured with. So they would get flown out by a company called Rocket Cargo onto the tours, and then I would fly home, and then they would just ship my gear back to me. It would just get pallet shipped right to the shop. So it was cool.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like an amazing experience.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, nice. I just had a private room every day. It just said the tattoo shop on tour would end up, it was always some kind of ironic, like funny inside joke name that the tattoo shop would take on. Like when I was out with the Used in My Chemical Romance, they had just launched the cover of Under Pressure from Queen and David Bowie. Mm-hmm. So that shop ended up being named Ba-Da-Dee-Da-Day Tattoo. So the cases would just say Ba-Da-Dee-Da-Day. And then every day at the venues, the people that loaded out, the local hands would just see that and match it to the door that said Ba-Da-Dee-Da-Day backstage. And so they would just wheel it in. They had no clue what it was. Most of the time people were pretty surprised to see me working back there. And they would just load my stuff in. I'd wake up in the morning and just have my own room and just set everything up, and then just tattoo all day and then hang out. And then as long as you're back to the bus by bus call, whenever that is, then you go to bed and wake up in the next place and just do it again. It was pretty cool.
Wow. Did you ever tattoo anybody on the bus?
Tried it, and it's awful. There were some days in smaller venues, or even in the summertime on Warped Tour and Mayhem and Uproar and Taste of Chaos, those bigger tours, sometimes there weren't enough rooms to get a tattoo room. So I would have to set up in the back lounge of the bus, and it's awful. It's so cramped, and that was terrible. I would just, most of the time on those days, I would just cancel and just not do it. Sometimes it wasn't worth it. So, but
I could imagine. I'm sure a lot more chill than that experience that I think Steve-O and Henry Rollins, if I'm not mistaken, had on Jackass in the Jeep.
Yeah. And our equipment back then was very different than now. The technology in tattooing has advanced substantially, and now everything's disposable. We have a cartridge system rather than just a needle. It's an actual little cartridge that clips into a grip. Mm-hmm. And instead of needing 5 or 6 tattoo machines for every different needle, you just use one machine that's a rotary, and you just clip in whatever needle you need. Had I had those things back then, I mean, I was flying home every 2 weeks just to run sterilization cycles and get everything packed and loaded and ready again, just to fly back out. But now, I mean, anybody that's touring and tattooing, if it's I guess right now nothing's happening, but you could literally just be out there nonstop. And everything is now, it's disposable, and I'll just mat aside disinfectants, and you don't need autoclaves or anything anymore. So,
wow, that's really interesting. So, I mean, to speak a little bit further on that, what is one of your favorite changes within the technology of tattooing?
I would say cartridges.
Cartridges?
The cartridge system is incredible. The rotary machines, their consistency, that's another big one. Pigment has changed substantially with companies like Fusion Ink. And aftercare is also huge. It used to be that people get wrapped with saran wrap and use a diaper ointment, basically. And now there's medical grade wraps like Second Skin that I believe the original source for that product through 3M is essentially a Tegaderm, was used for burn victims or to place IVs. and now it's available in large rolls. So we just wrap tattoos with it, and people can leave it wrapped for a few days, and just a lot less maintenance on aftercare and all that. And I mean, it's changed. It's a completely different world now. It's pretty cool. It's a lot more expensive by far. The cost of equipment, pigments, and everything, it's probably quadrupled from what we used to spend. It used to be that 50 needles in a box was $20, and now cartridges for 20 of them is about $40 to $50 for good cartridges. So it's substantially pricier, but I mean, it is also a lot easier, and I guess you're able to work more anyways. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So,
well, and the thing is, I mean, especially when, you know, I mean, I've always been of the mindset that you get what you pay for.
Right.
And you don't ever, I mean, especially when it comes to tattooing, you don't ever want to be looking for the most bargain basement situation you can get, because first of all, you're going to literally live with it forever.
Yeah.
It's not like buying a piece of cheap clothing that's going to just die on the vine a couple of months and you throw it in the garbage and forget about it.
Right.
Do you have a take on that whole situation?
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I feel like all the reality shows and all that, I feel like it's probably opened people's eyes up to what good tattoo work is and what's possible. I feel like there's a lot of pros and cons to that whole world, the TV show thing that had happened. But I mean, a lot of pros are that people are more aware of what good tattoos are, and that, you know, a lot of people had no idea what was possible on skin until that the shows made, you know, had all the public attention. But yeah, I mean, definitely it's permanent. So yeah, just but I mean, tattoos are expensive and very permanent. So whether you care or not, I guess some people don't care, and some people have a friend that collects really bad tattoos because he loves them. And it's kind of funny, but that's his thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it just depends, you know. But yeah.
So when you say he collects bad tattoos, I mean, how does he decipher who's going to give him the worst one?
I mean, I set him up at our studio once to get those cats that Brad Pitt has on Snatch on his shoulders, and I set my machines up kind of funky, and then he wanted our piercer to do it. So it's like just extra. Well, so Jake Kennison. Oh yeah. So Jake tattooed him. Jake did some of it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Which I wouldn't condone, other than he's a good friend, and it's just kind of funny, but.
Oh my gosh. That is so awesome to hear. That is funny. So tell me, who does your sort of perfect client look like? So if someone's watching this and they say, gosh, you know what, Vic is the person that I would love to tattoo me. Who does that person look like in terms of the stylization they need, the size they want? I mean, who makes a good referral? Let's say that.
Most of my clients are just, they're incredible. They're just great. And they're all repeat clients. I see them a lot, and just great conversation, just super trusting and patient people. And it's very rare that with how busy the artists at our studio are, it's pretty rare that we end up with any client that, I mean, we have enough artists there that if somebody wants me to do a tattoo that's not mine stylistically, I can give them a referral over to someone that can take care of them. And I think that that's kind of the biggest start there, is getting somebody into the right artist's hands. Because there's things that I don't like to do, but in no way, shape, or form means it's not a good idea. It's just that it's just not my thing. Yeah. Everybody has their race car they want over the other ones. Some people like Corvettes and some people like Ferraris. And so as long as they can kind of be in the chair with the right artist that enjoys the piece, I feel like that's an important part. The other side of that is that I don't like working with 100% do whatever you want mentality. It's as flattering as that might seem, you know, to an artist, it's really not, unless you know somebody really well. But I usually work pretty vague though. And if it's, I want my back done, or I want my left arm done, and I want a samurai. And then that's a lot of the stuff I design is based on something as vague as that. Some people have a particular flower. Some people have, you know, whatever, I want a dragon, but it has to be red or whatever. And that's great. It's when people tend to micromanage the project like crazy, then it stops becoming your work and your piece, and it starts becoming theirs. And when they're not an artist, it tends to become really frustrating for tattooers, because if you're going to spend that kind of money and time with somebody, I feel like if you don't trust them enough to just kind of just give into what they're wanting to do, then it's probably not the right artist for you. So a good client is somebody who just says, hey, I want my back done. Do you have any ideas, anything you've been wanting to do? And then, like, well, let's do Bezons, the goddess of music and arts, because I know that you like music. And then like, oh, okay, cool. And then you can kind of spin ideas like that. Or if they just say, I want a dragon and I like maple leaves, and, and then you say, okay, do you want fire or water, or what do you want? And then you just kind of, we just build up from there. So, so kind of in the middle, I guess. But I've also had clients bring me a stack of 40 different things, and that's fine too. So long as I usually just tell them, like, you tell me one, pick the 5 most important things that your piece has to have, and then number everything from its level of importance to not, and I'll get rid of some stuff, and then we'll kind of build it that way. So too much information in any piece. I don't care if you're doing an entire back piece. I feel like too much information in a piece, even 4 or 5 different elements on one back seems like you could do it, but the larger the area you're working with, the larger you just build everything up to be. So I feel like even doing a sleeve versus a back piece, you should really, just because your back's bigger, I don't think it means that you should be putting more information than a sleeve's going to have either. So
that's actually a phenomenal point there, because it's almost the less is more concept, right?
Yeah. And if you can see somebody's tattoo, especially a back piece, if you're at a tattoo convention and you're 50 feet away and you see somebody on a stage showing their piece and you can tell what it is from that point, to me, that's a really well done piece. If it's muddy and you got to get close and get in there, and especially on a back piece, a sleeve is obviously going to be somewhat of a different story, but I feel like less is more. And the bigger something is on a bigger area, I feel like it has more impact too. And that's kind of how I try to lay my stuff out. That doesn't mean it's the right way. That's just how I like to approach it. So,
well, you're doing something right, because every single thing that I see come across Instagram is mind blowing.
Cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So tell me, just what inspired you to lean toward this style of art?
I remember when I was young, really liking the designs of Japanese art, seeing little Chinese dragons in restaurants on chopstick packs and just that kind of thing. But it was so, no pun intended, but it was so foreign to me, and it was just such a different type of art. And I remember trying to draw it when I was little, but it was just really, really difficult, and I couldn't do it. And when I got into tattooing at 18, I really wanted to, initially I was like, I'm just going to do black and gray portraits and animals. That's what I wanted to do. And as kind of the years went on and being asked to do some Japanese tattoos here and there, I just kind of fell back into it. And then honestly, my first 5 to 8 years of Japanese tattooing and drawing, when I look back on it, I think was terrible. And not even necessarily because I think the pieces maybe looked bad, but because I was approaching them from such an Americanized, in such an Americanized way, like koi fish with really angry eyebrows, and just almost like graffiti new school meets Japanese, which as you know, like in the early 2000s was huge. But as I started doing conventions and then meeting tattooers, especially Japanese tattooers, and seeing what they were doing and how everything I feel like should still carry a lot of their traditional focus on the way that they design things. I feel like there's a lot of importance to that. Mm-hmm. And just to kind of dip back into a lot of the traditional Japanese design, you can kind of work off of that, but I feel like there's a lot of things. I took some seminars on Japanese icons and things like that taught me a lot. And there's scenarios where 2 elements should never really be seen together in a piece, and those don't necessarily have to be followed, but it just makes more sense. And there's formulas and rules to why they have those things in play. Mm-hmm. And then exploring Irizumi bodysuits and how the collar lines on a female versus male should kind of sit, and how everything cuts and breaks apart. The Japanese, I feel like, were, some of the first culturally to have rules and figure that out. And there was reason for it after thousands of years of doing this. And I feel like they've got it down. I feel like Polynesian tattooing as well. It's all based on flow and shapes and contours. And I mean, even Ed Hardy, who is one of the biggest names in traditional Americana tattooing, he spent time in Japan, I believe in the 70s, I think, maybe 80s, and met with Horiyoshi III, and in American tattooing that had never been seen before. But he went to Japan and just saw these massive bodysuits, just full layouts all the way down, where in America it was just like pick and stick, just tons of little stuff, which people still do to this day, as kind of an ode to that Americana culture. But I prefer just the big, large scale, less is more, solid Japanese tattooing. So even when I'm doing pieces that aren't Japanese style, I try to still follow that Irizumi formula, because I feel like it's pretty valuable. But yeah, so I feel like after exploring that into the mid to late 2000s, I kind of just junked the way that I design Japanese tattoos, and met artists like this guy named Shige from Japan, and he's just phenomenal, one of my favorite tattooers. And when you see the way they do it, it's just still elegant and it's still nice. I mean, a dragon, they say a dragon is made up of, it's a camel's head with rooster's claws and this and that. So to make a really fierce pissed dragon, I kind of enjoy making their heads look like a camel head and kind of goofy. And just because it's supposed to be this fierce animal doesn't mean it can't look kind of dorky and stupid and still not kill you,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I really love just those traditional Japanese kind of approaches to that art. So I've explored that more. And as I get older, I think it just keeps falling more into that and simplicity, and rather than trying to completely overdo and get crazy with everything, just follow their formula a little more. But
that is awesome. What a great piece of information. And I think you definitely hit on something that I know that I personally pay attention to, and that is how the tattoo works with the body itself, like the actual flow of the body, the muscle structure of the body, because you can see a very well done tattoo, and if it's not placed appropriately, it can also sort of screw up the artwork.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that's sort of interesting. Is when someone is apprenticing, is that something that's pretty heavily looked at? Is the contours and the muscle structures and that kind of stuff, or is it strictly the art?
I mean, that's definitely taught throughout the apprenticeship, because it's rare that you get somebody that wants to learn to tattoo that has thought of that kind of thing. It's not really. I mean, you get some artists. I feel like if you get into a graffiti artist, they've probably had to deal with working with certain structures and shapes and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I've only apprenticed 2 people ever, and I try to look for personality first. You can, if you can find somebody with a solid art background that you want to give a chance to, it's easier to teach a kind person than it is an asshole. So that's my first thing, personality all the way, at which point we explore art. And I feel like another good trait for an apprentice is somebody who has the ability to, you can see growth in, which these days with things like Instagram, a lot of times when we're hiring tattoo artists, we will skim through and you can see their dated photos. You see something like, 2016, let's see what he was doing the same month in 17 and then 18. And you can see a rapid progression of people, or you can't. And that's a lot of times, even when we've hired kind of the newer guys, we've had some guys that I see so much potential in, and right when we start them, some of them have been off to a rough start, but I've seen what they are capable of. And within a year, it's cool to watch these guys grow. And sometimes people just need to be in the right environment and around the right people. And I guess to be kind of boosted up, and to, I guess, people just to kind of see something in them and help them get there. And it's kind of cool to watch that. But yeah, so with the apprentice thing, I think that small tattoos and learning just to technically do the tattoo is something that happens first. And then working with contours and shapes of the body is kind of, I think that comes probably a little more down the road.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, there's just so many questions to ask you for sure. Cause I mean, it's just such an interesting art form. You're an interesting person. You're wildly talented. Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this though. Where do you see tattoo heading? Obviously, there's been an astronomical amount of change over the last, couple of decades, more specifically. But
Yeah.
where do you see it going?
I don't know, because it's in a place that I never even thought it would be. That not that I didn't think it could, I just didn't even foresee everything happening in our industry being a thing at all. It has changed so much. It's crazy. Some of the work that's coming out, every time you think you've seen it all, there's some guy in Russia or just some random place, and it will just blow your mind. It's just insane. And then styles, like when I started, it was new school, tribal, which isn't really even a thing anymore. It's more of like, they call it black work now, but it was like new school, tribal, black and gray, and gosh, I guess like color and maybe biomech. But now there's so many styles out there that back then we wouldn't have even thought would ever be a thing. And it's crazy. The industry used to kind of be like, this is the industry. These are the heavy hitters. These are the big names. And it has just exploded into where it's like, well, there still are like, these are the industry names that everybody knows. But then there's like, this circle is like the most insane, talented, famous black and gray guys that do portraits. And then this industry is like, these are the guys that do like the crazy geometry. And these are the Japanese, and these are the neo-trad guys, and these are the traditional guys. There's so many circles now. And it's funny because to cross over, I know people, in each kind of circle, but then when you talk to them, they're like, oh, have you seen so-and-so's, whatever, black and gray portraits? And I'm like, oh, that's not my world. But so I know a couple of those names, but within that world, they have their own version of like, oh no, like this is the guy. Then in my world, it's like, no, like this is the guy. And people are like, I've never heard of that guy. It's huge. It's a massive world now. It's pretty cool to be a part of.
Wow, I'd say. So to sort of expand on that just a tiny bit, we've touched on it a couple of times now, and it's something that I've personally believed in. So back when I had my tea shop in Mill Creek a few years ago, people would come to me for tattoo referrals because I knew a handful of tattoo artists around town, and I would always ask, what kind of tattoo are you going for, so I could refer it appropriately. Right. Because in my worldview, coming from that artist background, back in the 90s in the graffiti world, not every graffiti artist specializes in every type of art. And that is obviously the case in all art mediums across the board. And of course, tattoo art. And so if someone wanted a flower or lettering or, realism or black and gray or, Japanese style or something like that, it's very defined. And do you have, I know what your take is, but can you sort of expand on that take a little bit?
Yeah. So I get tagged on Facebook posts all the time. That's like, looking for tattoo artists to do blah, blah, blah. And then I get tagged, and then, friends of mine get tagged, and you see all the people locally getting tagged. And which to me like you're saying, that is very important, because I am awful at lettering. I suck at script. But I'll get tagged. It's like, oh, have Vic do it. But I'm terrible at that stuff. And I never spent the time. I was never super into it. So I never took the time to learn how to do it the right way. And there's not really an artist out there that is a master of all. I feel like there are some very well-versed artists, but anyone who thinks they've got everything down, I don't see why you would want to do that. And two, I don't feel like you do. And everybody, you do every kind of tattoo. And through the 90s, when I started, we had to do that. So it was like, oh, this guy just walked in and he wants a tribal band, but then this girl wants a yin yang, and then this person wants a realistic bird. And so we were forced to do that, but it was a very different time.
Yep. And
you kind of had to try to get good at everything. And then it's tiring though. And
I could imagine.
I don't care who you are. Deep down inside, you have your favorites. You know what you want to do, whether or not you're just kind of doing everything to do it or make money or whatever your driving force is. I feel like everybody has the thing that they're drawn to doing. So I feel like that's what you should explore. And I don't really feel like, and sometimes I'll see tags. It's like, oh, I want a Japanese back piece. And then it'll be like some other people get tagged on it that are my friends, that they're probably going like, I've never done a Japanese piece at all. And so I feel like it is very important just to make sure there are so many good artists, especially in Utah. In all my travels, there's very few cities I feel like have so many strong tattoo artists per capita, like Salt Lake. I'd say that Southern California is one of them. Seattle has a lot of really good tattooers, but overall, usually a major city will have a handful. They'll have like 5 that are just like, these guys are incredible. Everyone knows their names. Salt Lake has just, it's insane, man. There's so many talented artists in Salt Lake. And that being said, if there's any type of tattoo anybody wants in Salt Lake, there's someone that's really good at it and a lot better than someone else that doesn't do that style. So why spend the money on, somebody that doesn't specialize in it when you can get the person that does? And patience is key in that, I think, scheduling and patience. But yeah.
I totally agree. And I think you hit the nail on the head too. Salt Lake, I mean, it's a special place regardless. I mean, we've got such an amazing community here in general, an amazing, entrepreneurial group and small businesses and just community in general. But the talent of the artists here is truly next level for a mid-sized city like this, And
I mean, I'm talking graffiti. I'm talking just fine arts, oil painters, sculptors. My friend, Steve Kessler, Tusk is his sculpting name. He's just a phenomenal sculptor. He did all the statues at the aquarium, and you just get these random, Salt Lake's crazy. You just see people pop up. They're like, I'm going to do this thing. And then like my buddy Jordan got into photography and he's shooting for Harley now, and he's shooting for Michelin and Lamborghini and stuff like that. And it's just really cool. I feel like, I don't know what it is. Maybe there's just some strong work ethic culture in Salt Lake that I feel like people get obsessive about stuff and they just go all in, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, there's not a lot of places I've traveled to, and I've tattooed in every state, and there's not been very many that I've been as impressed with the collective of artists that I have in Utah, short of, California, which is unfair because it's massive. And then Seattle's another, Oregon. I mean, I don't know. And it kind of depends, again, that's my opinion. And then it kind of depends on, again, stylistically what you're into. Cause then there's some places back east with that traditional is just like the most incredible traditional tattoos, in New York City and things like that. But Utah we got a lot of really cool subcultures here for sure. And a lot of talent.
Yeah, without a doubt. So
and we have Osmonds too. I mean, like Marie Osmond. I mean, so much talent out of this state here.
Have you tattooed Marie?
No, I haven't. She didn't want to wait 12 minutes on the schedule. So
that's awesome. Okay, so if someone wants to, and also shout out to 27. I mean, you guys only bring on top-notch artists.
Yeah,
everybody is just amazing.
Yeah, and even above they're just such a solid, amazing group of people.
Nice.
And that's, I think, what we miss the most about being there full time is, right when we walk in the shop, it's just like a family, and everybody's just tight knit and just incredible. And my first and foremost, my favorite part about it is just the family vibe there. There's not chaos, no drama. It's just chill, and everybody wants to grow and learn. There's no totem pole pissing order. Nobody's better than anybody, and that's. I've worked at other studios where that kind of feels like it's a thing. I've guested at shops that it's like, oh, so-and-so, and then this person. And at 27, everybody's just chill. They just want to hang out, tattoo, and grow together and learn and just have fun. So
I love it. That's awesome. Okay, so if someone wants to get a hold of you to set up an appointment, or one of your people within 27, what are the best ways for them to get a hold of you guys?
The 27 Tattoo Instagram page. You can check picture to picture and kind of link to each individual artist portfolio, and then check out more of their work, message them directly. You can also message us directly on 27 Tattoo, and I handle most of those messages, and I can kind of get you in the right hands. And if it's something that our studio doesn't do at all, we have no problem referring you out to even other studios that are friends of ours. And then my personal Instagram at Vic Back. If you want to message me, I take messages on my personal IG also for scheduling. And pretty simple, but.
That's awesome. Okay. And definitely, whether you want a tattoo or not, you got to follow both these pages regardless, because you're going to see some unbelievable art. And honestly, it's just straight up inspiring. Thanks. So I appreciate what you're doing out there in the community. I appreciate what all of your artists are doing out there in the community, providing extreme quality, very good service. And, you're using the best of the best of all the tools.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I like to wrap up my interviews by asking, what is one of your favorite quotes, favorite songs, or both?
Favorite song? I guess it depends on if I'm having a good day or I'm kind of bummed out and depressed.
Yeah.
I give my top 5 maybe.
Yeah. Let's do it.
I'm probably gonna only make it to 3. The Beatles, There Are Places, one of my favorite songs. The message in that is incredible. I would say, gosh, I'm going to do albums.
Do it. Yeah, cool.
Fleetwood Mac, Rumors, Sgt. Pepper, Let's Go White Album, Paul Simon, Graceland, and Alicia Keys, No One.
Dude, you're killing it. Oh my gosh! So what'd you think about Dogface rocking that song last year from the Rumors record?
Oh, the Juice guy, right?
The skateboarder from up in Idaho.
Oh, I don't know if I saw that. I saw who was the guy that was?
Yeah, the Juice guy. That's right.
Okay, yeah. No,
I was like the Juice guy. Okay, yeah. The guy drinking ocean spray.
Yeah. And then Mick Fleetwood did one too. And then I heard that guy made like 300 and something K just on YouTube views or something, and bought himself a house and all sorts of stuff, which is kind of cool. But yeah, my wife and I are huge Fleetwood Mac fans. Yeah. And while you're at it, her at Erin2727, check out her tattoo art too. She's awesome.
Oh, spell that. Is it ERIN?
Yeah, ERIN 2727.
Okay, at ERIN 2727. Yeah. Make sure you follow her.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, this has been a real pleasure, my man.
Yeah. Thanks, man. It's been
Absolutely.
fun. Huh? Flew by.
Yeah, it did. Holy moly. It flew by real quick. So, I sincerely appreciate being on the show today and teaching us more about what you've got. Is there anything else specifically that we may have missed about your business or your art that we should share?
I don't think so. Not that I can think of.
All right.
I don't know. Nope. I'm good. You have any more questions? Yeah.
Oh, you're awesome. Appreciate you being on the show. If you don't mind, I'm going to have you hang tight in the green room for just a second while I wrap everything up. Is that cool?
Yep, for sure. Thanks, man.
All right, my man. You're welcome. Thanks. Cool. So there you go, my friends. Vic Back at 27 Tattoo. Also, check out at Erin2727. These guys are absolutely unbelievable artists, great people, great community members. I'm so excited that they're part of the both Salt Lake and St. George community now. So go and check out their shops. Follow them on Instagram. Shout out to everybody in Salt Lake City. We've got such an unbelievable community. Shout out to all the artists out there, the tattoo artists, all the different mediums. Salt Lake City is such a special place where we've got such a DIY mentality. That's do-it-yourself. So much creativity flowing. So definitely follow us here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. I'm pointing like there's a button. There's no button. Anyway, subscribe and throw us a like on the video if you enjoyed the content, which I know you did. And if you've got any questions, throw them in the comments below. If I don't have the answer, which I most likely won't, Vic will, and I will ask him if he can jump in and answer any questions there so we can get you pointed in the right direction. Again, thank you so much for watching Always the Journey TV. My name is Jason Woodland, and I appreciate your time. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.